Welcome to Financial Flight Academy with John Schuetz and Brent Connelly from Soar Wealth Strategies. In this podcast, we inspire families and business owners to build a foundation for their financial future. We do this by listening and building trust with our clients. Join us for this journey where we explore ways to protect your nest and live out your dreams as John and Brent draw from years of experience and guest experts to help you take that leap of faith.
Welcome to Financial Flight Academy. I'm John Schuetz, along with my co-host, Brent Connelly.
John, how you doing today?
Brent, you got to stop asking me that question because I'm always great.
My man. We are the founding partners of Soar Wealth Strategy. And like always on this show, we want to introduce you to people who inspire us, people that have taken the leap of faith and people that have bet on themselves to create their own success.
Yes. And in lieu of that, we've got, no, I'm kidding. Our guest is a familiar face.
Yep.
Here it is. She's ready. To folks in Omaha, she is a familiar face. She's a homegrown former news anchor at KETV who chose family over showbiz.
Oh.
I know. Brandi Petersen Paul, welcome to Financial Flight Academy.
Thanks, guys. It's an honor.
Brandi left television to become the director of communications for the Westside Community School District. A shout out to the Westside Warriors.
Yes.
I am an alumni.
I hear amazing people come out of there. Case in point.
Yeah.
Here
Well, yeah. Hopefully they're teaching them that alumni is plural now and not he's not an alumni.
I am part of that. Thank you very much.
Well, so viewers, they got to see the result of a TV personality showing up on their screen every night. But it's not that easy, right? You just didn't show up one day being the evening news anchor, Brandi. It's really because I watched it unfold. This is a lesson. No. It's coming later, but don't worry. But no, this is a story really of someone who worked their tail off to earn their opportunities. And so truly, we are excited and honored to have you here.
Thank you.
Doesn't mean we won't make sport of you later, but that's all right.
That's what I'm here for.
I will try to keep him under control, Brandi.
Thank you.
Let's get into it, Brent. Let's go.
Let's do it. So,
Talk to Brandi.
How long were you at Channel 7?
Total 15 years. On air was about 13 years. But like John said, before that, I started as an intern in news. And then I wanted to learn under the wise Jedi that is John Schuetz. And so
I know
I had a sports internship. He sent me to the weekends, so he never had to look at me. But I was there, went back to a news internship and got very, very lucky. One of our reporters went on maternity leave. And I approached our news director, Roseanne Shannon, and said, hey, you have anybody filling in for her while she's gone? Because here's someone cheap and able and really willing to learn what can happen. And was very lucky that she took a chance on me, and that ended up turning into a full-time position before I graduated from college. So I was very, very lucky.
It so much speaks to the idea of, hey, if you want something, sometimes you got to ask for it,
absolutely.
Which took me actually a long time to learn when I was in television, because I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. But yeah, just creating those opportunities for yourself. So, but let's back up a little bit. And you went to college
I went to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
I've heard of it. And did you go in there knowing that you wanted to go into television news, Brandi?
I did not. When I was in high school, I loved speech. Proud, don't want to brag, but I will. 2-time NSAA state speech champion.
Whoa.
My husband gets a little jealous.
Oh, my goodness.
My kids are all like asking him about, did he win any state championships? And I'm all, your mom did. You know who did? Your mom. That's right.
Wow.
In speech and mock trial. You want to see my letter jacket? My gold medals?
That's funny because I do the same thing to my wife, who is in the Nebraska High School Sports Hall of Fame. But I always tell the kids, yeah, your dad, he was the best actor at State 1X.
That's right.
They don't seem that impressed, frankly.
There were literal crickets when I said it to my children.
I know. Yeah. Me too. I understand.
I knew I loved being on stage and being a bigger than life personality, but my first major in school was musical theater, thinking that was going to be the avenue I pursued. And I found out very quickly.
Let's be a lady tonight. Yeah.
That was not where I was meant to be. So I kind of floated that first semester thinking, well, what am I supposed to do? And, you have to take so many electives that'll fit this, or this. And I ended up taking an intro to broadcasting class and absolutely loved it. I've always loved history. I've loved storytelling. I've kept a journal since I was 8 years old. just capturing those moments and being the narrator and retelling those things. And did you hear about this? Did you hear about this? And so I was never on the newspaper staff or involved in that in high school, but kind of took that route. And I'm a big believer in faith, that everything happens for a reason. And my mom ended up bumping into Pamela Jones, who was the weekend anchor at KETV at the time, at, I believe, a city council meeting, and said, my daughter's a little interested in broadcasting. Do you have any internships or anything? And Pam gave her the phone number of Joe Casimir, our editor at the time. And I called him about internships, and that's how I found my way into broadcasting. So I wasn't even a broadcasting major when I got my first internship, but I absolutely loved it. I loved the pace. I loved everything can change. One day you're covering, something about the president. The next day you're covering a dog's wedding. You never know like what the world will bring you. And it was
true too.
Awesome.
Okay.
It was awesome.
So that's a great story, but I'm just going to go right for it right now.
I love it.
I grew up as a very
Toddler.
interesting child, growing up watching the news late at night, just looking at John Schuetz doing the sports and Creighton in Nebraska highlights. Wonderful hair. And he still has really, really good hair.
Fantastic.
But let's just cut to the chase. I want to know some stories from your days back in studio.
So
and
many.
Pick out. Give me something really
Can
good.
any of them be told on a clean podcast?
We'll see.
format?
We'll see if I just hear that. Meh, meh, meh,
I
and-
deal with this guy every day. Now, you're a saint for as many years as you put up with him.
That is true, by the way.
But give me something.
So one of my favorite shoot stories is, at the time,
Here we go.
Tyson Pearsall was filling in on weather for Bill Ranby. And so we have something at the end of every newscast called a kicker, where it's just a fun, something good happening in the world, something memorable, quick mention. And it was a new world record for the number of puppies born to like a Grand Mastiff or something. It was like 27 puppies.
Okay.
And Tyson, bless his heart, goes, I only have an 8-pound Shih Tzu, and that's all I can handle. And Schuetz and Rob McCartney stared at each other, and literally their faces turned purple. And I was so afraid of what John was going to say. I was just like, thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow night. Like the shortest out of any broadcast.
Wow.
They
Yes.
constantly kept me on my toes.
Okay, now I'm going to turn to John and say, what were you thinking?
What? I showed rare restraint in that moment,
was.
but Rob and I both had about 18 jokes circulating through our head at that very moment. But
so many.
so since we're returning the favor, so this is how difficult it is in getting into the broadcasting world. So Brandi was an intern, and I kind of vaguely, you're going to have to finish the story here for me, Brandi, but you were asked, somebody was doing a live shot or a stand-up or something, and there were geese in the background or something, and you were the official goose herder. Yeah.
So it was the first summer I was interning in news, and the Jean Leahy Mall in downtown Omaha at the time had this beautiful little river that would flow through it, and people would go and feed the geese. And well, the story the reporter was doing was there was a big rat problem because rats were starting to congregate to eat the food. So she had this story, was going to do a live shot for the 5 o'clock news. And all of a sudden this geese is like starting to follow her around. So I'm this brand new intern trying to make a name for myself, trying to do the best job I can. So I'm like, well, I'll distract the goose so Trisha can do her live shot and I'll be the hero. It'll be great. So I run over there in my heels and my skirt and my, best a 19-year-old can afford from the mall. 5'7", all my 90s girls out there who remember.
Oh, nice.
And thank you. And I get this stick and I'm all, here, goosey, goosey, goosey. So we found out later that there was a nest of eggs in a bush nearby.
Oh.
And that's why this goose was losing its mind, like, get away from my babies. Well, we didn't know that. And so it sees me full out 8-foot wingspan, like attacks me, biting my legs. I fall down on my butt, jump up. I'm like the girl movie scream, like whatever. So that's all off camera. Trisha gets her live shot done. Everybody had a good laugh. Ha 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 ha. End of story. Until the next night, our news editor, Joe Casimir, calls me at home, and I'm just this little intern. Yeah. Channel 3 put the goose thing on the news last night. I was like, what are you talking about? They were also there covering the story, had a different photographer at a different location, got the entire thing on tape of me falling on my butt, jumping up in the air, attacked by this goose, trying to like save myself with a stick. Thank God YouTube was not a thing back then. But when I left TV 15 years later, this photojournalist, Sean Kelly, I know where you live, Sean, still saved the tape and gave it to Rob, who put it back on the air. And I still have my son's friends who were not even alive then. I saw a video of you getting attacked by a duck. Like,
a duck.
It lives on.
Of course.
I know.
You should have pulled an anchor man and got the whole studio from 7 to go over to 3 and get that tape.
Right.
Don't worry, there'll be a link in the show notes to that video.
Oh, traumatic.
Well, thank you for sharing, though, Brandi. We appreciate
Fun
that.
moments.
That's great.
Brandi Petersen Paul is our guest right now. She was Brandi Petersen on TV all those years, but she's married now. Yeah. So how did you how did you pivot from a successful career as a television news anchor to the director of communications for Westside Community Schools?
So I love my job deeply. What I didn't love as much after I had children were the hours. And John, you've talked about this before. When you work in news, you work literally every shift, every day. There are no holidays. There are no weekends. Breaking news happens. And I remember very clearly another John moment, not a funny one, where John, myself, and Rob were all, for whatever reason, working late that night. And it was Officer Paul Latcher got shot. Mm-hmm. And we stayed until 4 a.m. I don't know, covering what was happening. That's reality in news. You don't get to pick when news happens. And once my sons were born and my oldest was going into kindergarten, it was very important to me. I didn't want to miss T-ball games. I didn't want to miss concerts. I didn't want to miss Christmas and have to explain why mommy couldn't be there for, Santa to come and tuck you into bed and all of that. A lot of parents have incredibly taxing schedules and do it, and props to you. For me, we had the ability that I could explore other options. And again, big believer in fate. The people that we purchased our home from, Dave Williams, was currently the president of the Westside Board of Education. And he gave me a call and said, hey, we know our longtime communications director is planning on leaving us. Do you know anybody who might be interested? And I said, well, Dave, I might be interested. Like I'm starting to think about what my next chapter might be. And it worked out. And what's wonderful about what I do now is in many ways, it is very similar in that we tell stories. I get to tell stories about kids doing incredible things and teachers doing amazing things. And for example, we have a young lady who would still be at Westside if she was not on Team USA for the gymnastics team.
Right.
Just competed in the World Championships. She was in the same 3rd grade class as another young lady who just competed in Italy for Team USA in World Wrestling Championships. Wow. Just stories like that's my core. That's why I wanted to be in broadcasting. And what drew me to it is there's so many amazing things happening all around us. To be the narrator of that, to put a microphone on it and share it with other people and maybe inspire them is really fun.
Yeah, which is it's interesting because this is why we do this podcast, right?
Right?
We know all of these people who have inspiring stories in one way or another. You don't have to be Warren Buffett with, all kinds of money to have an inspiring story. So, and that's why we have you here today. So,
no pressure.
Yeah.
So what's that transition been like for you now then, going from leader to learner now?
It has been challenging at times. I am in a world with some of our country's best educators. My superintendent, Dr. Lucas, is fantastic, not only as an educator, but as a leader. So I'm around all of these people who have PhDs and have written books on best education practices. And here I am who read the news every night, I loved what I did. And I talked to John about this. I felt respected and kind of a communications expert in some ways. I mean, I was still learning when I was in broadcasting. You're constantly learning throughout your life. But I felt like I was a senior anchor. Like I helped other reporters. I was looked up to. And then I came into this world where I'm kind of the outsider. I'm taking all this information and things happening, and my world is a little different. So the learning still continues there. It has definitely been a shift that, in essence, I have, 6,000 plus bosses, our families, our taxpayers. We are the stewards of their hard-earned money.
Right.
And so if I get an email from somebody who lives at, 76th and Pacific, and they're upset about something we did, it is my responsibility to answer them and communicate with them because they're paying me.
Right.
So that's a little bit different. There's challenges every day, but at the same time, I get really excited because I feel like we're doing something very important. Again, we are using this investment from a community. It's my responsibility to tell them what that investment is paying for. And I don't take that lightly. Whether it's our annual report sharing, test results, or if we have a crisis or something happening, that I get that information out there right away. So they're not hearing things through the grapevine that aren't true. That's my job. So it's exciting to have that responsibility. It's challenging. And then it's also very fulfilling to get to share those good stories of things happening and get to continue to do that.
And in a minute, we're going to learn more about what's coming up next for Brandi, which could be very, very rewarding, perhaps in the form of a sash or tiara. That's coming up.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. I know you're listening to the podcast Financial Flight Academy, and we are so happy you're here. If you have any questions, please head over to soarwealthstrategies.com or the show notes to find out how to reach us. We would love to hear from you.
Well, we're back with Brandi Petersen Paul, former news anchor, now director of communications at Westside Community Schools, and possibly soon to have another title added, but that's coming up in just a bit. Brandi, I want to know where all of this ambition came from. Was it something in your childhood that led you to be this person who is willing to chase geese to earn an opportunity to become a news anchor?
Scars. I may still have the scars.
We've all got them.
For the poor girl, John.
We've all got them.
I'd like to, say that he's not right, but if you see the video, if it wasn't me, I'd think it was hilarious. So it's fine. It's all fine. So I was always the kiss up, did I do good, Mom? Like I've just always, who's the best one today, Mom? Me, wasn't it?
So hard to believe.
I know, shocker. So that's always been there. Type A, that I've always just driven myself. I want to have the best spelling test. I want to win. If I do something, I'm gonna win it.
Right.
If I play co-ed softball in the lowest competitive division, I don't care. You're gonna lose, and I'm gonna slide into home plate just to say I can still do it.
I love it. Love it. Love
so
the competitiveness.
that's always been there.
She's the Pete Rose of broadcasting, ladies and gentlemen.
Except now old and slow. Those two things.
Well, so is Pete Rose. He's like 70.
Go. But a lot of it, looking back and being a parent now myself, my mom and dad were obviously instrumental in my work ethic and my attitude that if you want something, don't wait for somebody to give it to you. You make it happen and do it through kindness and not stepping on someone else to get there, but using your own skills and mindset and work to make it happen for yourself. Yeah. So whether it was in high school, trying out for something, or now, I'll be 42 later this month, and I don't want to settle for, well, I'm getting older, my body's going to look like this. And no, like if there's a way that I can eat healthier and work out and whatnot, then I'm going to continue to do that because I can, because that's something I want. And so I'm going to work for it. So
yeah, that's
I do have to say this, I don't like being sincere at all, both of you, but I'll try and squeeze a little sincerity out today. Brandi is possibly the nicest person to have ever been in broadcasting. And that may not be saying much, but no, truly.
Yeah, there it is, backhand.
No, just truly a genuinely good person.
Thanks,
so
John.
yes.
Now, tell us a little bit about your family and how you're passing on some of those, some of the lessons that you learned from your folks.
You bet. So my dad is I don't want to say a Papillion native, but he's been here a heck of a long time. He's a transplant. My dad built a CPA firm that became one of the top 5 auditing firms in the country at one point from absolutely nothing. Everything that my dad had growing up in small town Iowa, he built for himself. And it wasn't from putting blame on anyone or woe is me, I don't have anything. No, it was just working his butt off to get there. My mom, to help him do that, raised 3 little kids. My mom had 3 kids, 5 and under at the age of 25. That astounds me, with my dad traveling on the road to build his business and his reputation. As a mom now, there were days that I was like, why isn't there a business where you can just drop off your child and then take a nap for an hour? Like, why doesn't that exist? And my mom had 3 children. Incredible lady. But both of them built up in me that if I wanted something, I needed to work for it and earned it. I remember very clearly, weird how certain memories stick out to you. I started babysitting when I was 12 years old. And at one point, my dad came into my room to ask me if I had change so he could give my brothers their allowance. And I opened this little mailbox I had on my desk, and there was like $600 in cash in it, because I was doing all this babysitting, but I had huge glasses and like sitting at home reading Babysitters Club books. I didn't spend it on anything. So at that point, at 13 years old, I had a checking account to learn how to, here is my money and here's how I'm going to subtract and do debits and assets, and very early on how to manage my money, and if I wanted something, how to save for it and how to spend that money. Mm-hmm. And so those are all things that we really try and instill in our children, both Brian and I. He was raised very much the same way in terms of work ethic. If you want something, you work for it. And so can't is not a word in our house. If we hear the word I can't, we snip that in the bud immediately, because find a way. Find a way to do it.
Right.
There's a way that you can get what you want to work hard for it. Right now, my son just turned 12, and instead of birthday presents, he's asking folks for money if they want to get him a present, because he's saving for a computer. That's something that he loves. Video editing. He loves learning about geography and history, and that's what he wants to do.
I have to say, this kid is talented, because you posted something, a stop action video that he did is just, I thought, wow,
it's crazy.
I have no idea how you would even start.
I don't
going
either.
About doing
and
that,
he just taught himself. He saw something, and then he watched a half-hour YouTube video on it, and he's like, okay, I'm going to do that.
Wow.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
But things like that, like even teaching them, if you want to earn money, do a lemonade stand. Last fall, they wanted to earn money for something that they were doing. So they went up to Papa's office and pulled weeds for an hour to earn money. So that's really important to us. Kindness, earning what you want, and never making excuses. There is always a way. If you want something, that you can go for it.
And helping them to understand that there are trade-offs.
Absolutely.
Right. A little, the fancy term is opportunity cost. The loss of potential gain from one alternative versus the one you chose. So for example, I ran these numbers beforehand. They don't just come to my mind, but you buy a $5 coffee every day. Is that what coffee? I'm not a coffee drinker, but these fancy schmoozy coffee things.
At least.
Yeah. So you buy a $5 coffee every day for 25 years. You've spent over $45,000 in coffee. And if instead you've invested that $150 a month and got maybe a 7% rate of return, you'd have over $118,000.
Isn't that crazy?
And you would go to the bathroom a lot less. But that is beside the point. But those are the things that we try to talk to people here at Soar Wealth Strategies about is, hey, yes, you can have that big fancy truck, but it does come at a cost of, you might have to work a couple of years longer if you start buying all these fancy things at a young age.
And I'm so grateful for you guys, because, even though I had these lessons instilled in me as a child, and I try to instill them in my children at, John, I forget when we started seeing you, like maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Sure. Let's go with that. Sure. I'm not good with time frames, Brandi.
I mean, it's incredible, because John started broadcasting when he was 12?
Yes.
Had success.
Yes.
And
I was one of the little rascals, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mentioned continuous lifelong learning, and through working with Soar Wealth Strategies, my husband and I have kind of relearned those same lessons on a much larger scale, to where, man, I really want those new Doc Martens, which are making a comeback and making me very happy.
The Doc Martens. I remember those.
I really,
John, those were shoes.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, I thought that was
on picture. They're very fancy.
I thought he was on Gunsmoke. Okay, go ahead.
So I really want these, and I'm thinking about them, and man, but I just talked to John in our last annual meeting about Do we want to retire in this beach house? It's possible. But every time I buy something like that, that's taking away from that long-term goal. So finding experts like you guys is crucial to continue those lessons that are built into us as we're kids.
And that's one of our hopes here at Soar Wealth Strategies, is it not to just look at the big picture of retirement, but break it down by like exactly what you said. Well, you have to make some sacrifices now in order to, have some of the bigger and more fun things you want to do. There's no more fun that we get. And John, you probably agree that when clients call us and say, hey, we want to take that trip finally.
Right.
Or we want to buy, we're ready to buy that house.
We try to get people to think in specifics, right?
Right.
What do you, so yeah, we know you want to retire at 65, but what do you like, Brandi, right? Do you want that to be on the beach in Florida? In what's the community?
Anna Maria Island.
Anna Maria Island.
So great. So seriously, like, not to get too deep and stray from
Could there
whatever.
be maybe an extra home for maybe a couple of advisors?
Visit.
Live-in financial advisor.
But true story. So I called John, I want to say a year ago. It was like a year ago last January. And I said, I don't know what it was. I'm 40. I'm scared. Life. Retirement as far as it seems. Brian and I have this pipe dream. Could we purchase this investment property and retire there? And John said, yeah, that is absolutely something you can make happen. And just hearing that, it made it all, yes, this is a real life goal that I want to make happen. How can we get there? It was awesome.
That's great.
And you're going to do it.
We're going to do it.
And it's going to be awesome. And I probably won't be invited there, but if you'd like to get in contact with us here at Soar Wealth Strategies, maybe hash out some of these goals that you'd like to try and obtain, visit our website, soarwealthstrategies.com. You can call us here at the office, 531-867-3400, and you can set up a no obligation 30-minute fit meeting. We'll see if you're a fit for us and we're a fit for you. And so it's, it's the right price, free
99.
Yes.
But
And
John,
I'm going to throw this out there in case any of my pageant girls are listening to this. I volunteer a lot with Miss Nebraska, some incredible young women. Don't think that that's not right for me. I'm only 22. No, I bought my first home when I was 24 years old.
Wow.
And that,
good for you.
well, thanks, Daddy. Thanks, Steve.
Shout out to Steve.
But truly, that builds you up for success for retirement, because when you make those sound financial decisions early on and you're not getting yourself swimming in debt, you're making good, sound investments that'll help build your net worth. You can buy another house later on. You can pay off your college loans. You are setting yourself up for retirement. So ladies, if you're listening to this, yeah, it is right for you. Set up that appointment.
John, I think
We might have to might get her license.
Yeah,
Get her
let's
working here.
knock down a wall and build an office in here. Now, that was a little teaser because before we went to break, we never got a chance to talk about what's next.
Oh man.
Mrs.
So,
Nebraska.
That's right. This washed up has been it.
Oh, you
Put
stop
my
it.
crown and sash back on. So I mentioned I volunteer quite a bit with Miss Nebraska. I was very lucky to be Miss Omaha and Miss Douglas County back in, back when we had chalkboards and cavemen and whatnot.
John remembers those times.
But I love it. I love being surrounded by like-minded women who are all of the same mindset of hard work and setting goals and being positive and supporting each other, not stepping on each other, not, what can I do to compare myself to this one? No, like iron sharpens iron. How do you make yourself better? It's like golf. Who cares if that you got to be better to get to
Golf?
that point?
Someone say golf.
Yeah.
There you go.
Calm
I got
down,
you.
Brent. Calm down.
And so the last couple of years, not only was I volunteering with those women and loved being around them, but I was asked to MC Mrs. Nebraska a few years ago. And it's very much the same thing, just with women who are married.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. More and more, I found myself answering questions about common events and what would be your business strategy and how would you promote yourself in your community and all of these things I feel like I'm already doing and love. And it became kind of an idea of, maybe this is something I can do just for me. I wear a lot of different hats. I try to be the best mom I can be, a good wife, great communications director, a good friend, a community ambassador, try and promote things in my neighborhood and small businesses. This was maybe something like for me that an hour a day I could focus on my workouts or self-improvement, or what can I do to be better organized as part of this, or bringing in community sponsors and how can I help them? And it's really been fun. And so this competition will take place in April. There's 13 of us from all over the state of Nebraska. And already I'm inspired by their incredible stories. There's cancer survivors. There's women who are promoting reading and going to the legislature to actively advocate for bills and things that are happening. There are weightlifters. There are women who could crush walnuts with their abs, and it's phenomenal. All of those things inspire me to want to be better.
I love it.
And so it's great. And you guys are one of my sponsors, and I'm so very grateful for that. I can't tell you how grateful I am.
And we're happy to do it. And you're
Very.
a great ambassador, and we'll expect the Soar Wealth Strategies logo somewhere on your forehead.
So I was going to put it on the badge.
Kind of
Forehead is fine.
Is it like NASCAR or something? I don't know.
I wear a jacket, yes, with badges like Girl Scouts, except it's.
And in the interview portion, you'll be asking, I don't know what to do with my hands, right? Like Ricky Bobby. So,
well, best of luck.
Thank you.
Yes, we are totally behind you, and no one would be more deserving of the title.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Brandi Petersen Paul, for joining us on Financial Flight Academy. It's been great having you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. If you'd like to join Brandi as a regular listener.
Yes, she is. She's
one of our downloads.
One of the 7 downloads.
Yeah. Please subscribe to the podcast and tell your friends. And don't forget to follow us also on all the social media channels.
That's right. And we'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks right here on Financial Flight Academy.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Flight Academy podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at soarwealthstrategies.com or give us a call at 531-867-3400. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Soar Wealth Strategies. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Securities and advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor.